Have you ever walked around the city of Prague or gone to the uppermost layer of the Prague castle? As you go through the classy terrain of the city, visiting the monumental structures, you almost don't realize that something is missing in this city. What if you were on a vacation in the beautiful city of Cologne? After visiting the classy restaurants or taking a walk on the Hohenzollern Bridge and enjoying the culture of the day, you start to notice something different about this city. If you guessed correctly, then you would have seen that there's no super skyscrapers in these ancient cities. Both Prague and Cologne are just two of the many examples of cities with few or no skyscrapers in Europe. Seems a bit strange, doesn't it, that a part of the world as developed as Europe is devoid of high-rise buildings, especially when you compare Europe with other major continents in the world like North America and Asia. Well, today we're going to clue you in on some interesting facts as to why you don't see many major buildings and skyscrapers dotted across the continent of Europe. The history of the skyscraper. To really understand the nature of the skyscraper and why it even exists, we need to take a look back at the history of the skyscraper itself. Originally, it was made to accommodate the necessity for more living areas in smaller spaces, as the ever-growing population of individuals who were moving into places like Chicago and New York began to explode around the time of the mid to late 1800s. Thanks to Englishman Henry Bessemer, who invented the first process to mass-produce steel inexpensively, the ability to create taller and more extensive structures began to become both cheaper and easier, leading to many of the designs going forward to become a way for living expenses and business buildings to become cheaper with less strain on resources. The breakthrough in the production of steel opened the door for builders to start making taller and taller structures. Modern steel today is still made using technology based on Bessemer's process. By the time that the Industrial Revolution began, though, other types of productions for various products that would be used on skyscrapers, such as everything from nuts and bolts to hammers and wrenches, and even steel and iron, would become much cheaper thanks to the mass production assembly line. And once these things were in place, there would be a, quote, race to the sky, which would begin the ever-growing trend of skyscrapers that we all know and see today across various cities in the United States. History of skyscrapers in Europe. Our journey together takes us back to the time of the Second World War. At the time of the Second World War, tall buildings were becoming a thing among some developing countries in other parts of the world. But Europe had already established itself as one of the most developed continents at the time. Then came the war. Lands were bombed, buildings were lost, and monuments were destroyed. This sort of gave Europe a chance to rise from the ashes, literally, and start building high-rise projects. But what happened? Well, the complete opposite. In fact, Europe decided not to build new high-rise structures, but rather focus on restoring the old structures that were lost in the war. So, rather than building new structures, a restoration process began. This led to what we see today and why there are some sentimental attachments to these old structures. This is mainly because of the story accompanying each structure. Fast forwarding to the 1960s and 70s, when skyscrapers started to become more common in North America, European countries had set up planning regulations in order to restrict the building of high structures, as they were termed, quote, soulless and non-cultural. This affected the building of skyscrapers as the people preferred the old structures with their vintage looks and prestige. As such, many European cities would be foregoing the towering concrete giants, and instead opt for more modern and minimalist designs that were more in line with the European style and taste. Skyscrapers in Europe today. Several skyscrapers are being erected in Europe, and in cities like Moscow and London, you will find scores of high buildings completed or at least under construction. But they do still face a major challenge. Have you ever heard of the term Brusselization? Well, it was a word that was coined to depict the situation where a city was tearing down its old buildings for new high-rises, and for many, it just was too unsightly for the people to bear. We mentioned sentimental attachment earlier on, and this has led some structures in many ancient cities in Europe to have many of their old buildings for historical and sentimental purposes. Areas like Canary Wharf in London and La Défense in Paris are some of those places. Also, historical buildings such as St. Paul's Cathedral and Westminster Palace are also seen as important to the history of the city, and for good reason. So, by regulations, not only is it forbidden to destroy these buildings for newer and taller ones, you're not even allowed to build structures in the view path of these structures. What does that mean? Well, it just simply means that if you are in the city, you should be able to see these structures from a long distance without any high-rise buildings blocking your view. So where does that leave us? The European view. The shortage or lack thereof of high buildings in Europe does have a plus side. A vacation to the larger cities in countries such as the United States, China, Arab Emirates, and many more are fast becoming a tale of tall buildings. All you ever see are structures that have you stretching your neck till your eyeballs roll into the back of your head. You move from one tall building to the next, but you never really get to see the city as a whole. This is why many cities in Europe are great spots for vacation. After journeying to the many attraction spots in the town, one could easily find a tall structure, climb up, and take a view. What a view that would be! You get to see the colorful city spread out before you in a charming manner. The small subjets, the spacious mansions, the old cathedral down the docks, and the Blue River coursing through the city all in one simple view. Now that's a vacation city that I'd love to get lost in. Now that we've talked about what major cities offer without skyscrapers, let's mention some of the popular ones that are located across Europe. Skyscrapers in Europe. Here are some notable skyscrapers in Europe that you may want to visit next time. Number 4, Tor First. The first name on this list is the Tor First Tower. This is the tallest skyscraper in France and the 33rd largest building in Europe. Located in Paris, this structure was renovated in 2011 with a height of 231 meters. Before that, the building was about 159 meters after its first completion in 1974. The tower is an office space with 52 floors, and the only structure that's taller than the Tor First in France is the Eiffel Tower, which is located within the same city. Number 3, UNICREDIT Tower. The UNICREDIT Tower is also approximately 231 meters high, making it the tallest building in Italy and the 32nd tallest in Europe. This building was completed in 2011 and has 32 floors with one of the most beautiful structures in the city of Milan. Fun fact, the Elysian Tower at 209 meters or 686 feet is still the largest building in Italy if ranked by the highest usable floor. But who cares about that? Number 2, Shard. The Shard, or Glass of Shard, as someone like to call it, is the tallest building in the UK. It has a height of 309 meters or 1,016 feet, which makes it the 6th tallest building in Europe. Shard is 72 floors and was completed in 2012. It replaced an old 24-story building. Lastly, number 1, the LAKHTA Center. Welcome to the tallest skyscraper in Russia and the entire whole of Europe. Located in the classiest city of St. Petersburg, this building is an 87-story skyscraper with a structural height of 462 meters, about 1,516 feet. Surprisingly, it is number 14 on the list of the tallest buildings in the world. It was completed in 2019 and made it one of the tallest additions of tall buildings coming to Europe. I hope that we get to see more. So, there you have it. Now you know why there's not as many skyscrapers in Europe as in other countries.